In 2004, the first Saw film came and took the horror scene by storm, creating a whole new genre of torture porn. Despite having a budget of $1.2 million, it made $104 million worldwide. After this, writer and director James Wan continued to work on horror films with The Dead Silence and eventually created the Conjuring universe and the Insidious universe. After successfully starting up 3 different franchises, he moved over to make one of the few successful and acclaimed DC movies in Aquaman and one of the best Fast and the Furious movies, showing his skills as a big-budget filmmaker. Then he returned to his roots of lower-budget horror filmmaking with Malignant. Malignant never had a good hand to succeed. The film was released during Swan's big-budget action run, where people weren't ready or expecting a low-budget horror film. It also came out in 2021 when COVID was still at its height, straight to HBO Max, the same week as Shang-Chi as part of the MCU powerhouse, and a month after The Charming Free Guy, starring Ryan Reynolds. And despite the fact that I am part of the Malignant mob, this movie is weird. Not many people knew about this movie, and the ones who have probably weren't interested in a film as campy and as out there as this one. On a budget of $40 million, $20 million more than the immensely successful Conjuring, this movie only made $35 million. Spoilers ahead for a great movie, so if you haven't seen this movie, go see and prepare to have a crazy good time. But its convoluted and insane plot is some of the reason that Rotten Tomatoes critics gave the film a 77%, where audiences were at the much lower 52%. Split down the middle, and that's why we call it a love it or hate it movie. Malignant follows Maddie, a woman whose abusive husband dies, and she starts to see visions of a terrifying figure committing murder. As she uncovers the mystery, she realizes the killer is way closer to her than she realizes. Literally. Now stay with me now. The serial killer is actually Maddie's parasitic twin named Gabriel, who is literally attached to the back of her skull. And the visions that she sees is her body committing crimes backwards, since he's at the back of her head, against the people who experimented on him. When they were kids, Gabriel turns evil, and so they carve Maddie's skull open and push him in there, so when her husband pushes her into the wall, it cracks Gabriel out. That is also the same reason why Maddie has had so many miscarriages. It's because Gabriel is killing and harvesting her babies for strength and out of jealousy that his sibling is replacing him. This all ends in a scene where Gabriel tries to kill Maddie's adopted sister, again out of a fit of jealousy and rage that his sister is trying to replace him. So if that description sounds crazy and kind of bad, here's my defense. That is the point. Many people trash the crazy twists, or the cheesy and bad violence, or even the clunky dialogue, plot, and characters, despite the fact that this is all intentional. Look at Evil Dead 2, a cult classic but loved by both critics and audiences, sitting at a comfortable 88 and 89% respectively on Rotten Tomatoes. Evil Dead 2 does the same thing that Malignant does. It takes a crazy plot and attaches it to cheesy and campy writing and visuals. Just like Sam Raimi can clearly make good films, James Wan has proven time and time again that he is an amazing director and that he can make well-done and terrifying films. The Conjuring movie was the first film to receive an R not for violence or swearing or sex or anything else, but just due to how terrifying it is. If Wan wanted to make this a classic, good, scary movie, he could have done it in his sleep, but he didn't want to. When you look at Malignant as the specifically crafted camp that it is, suddenly the movie is hilarious. Not every film has to be terrifying and realistic looking like Evil Dead 2013, which many people point out has better and more visceral violence and writing even on a smaller budget. Sometimes you want a little bit of Dead by Dawn. I think it's unfair that when a movie like Megan or Abigail comes out, everyone praises the cheesy and purposefully campy films, saying that we need to make more horror movies like this. But they hold James Wan to different standards just because he is known to be a good director. The technical bones of the film are good. The camera work is top-notch as always, with some crazy overhead tracking shots. He does a good job introducing us to the mechanics of this crazy film, and no one can say that they saw that twist coming. But even that makes sense in the context of the film, and somehow he makes the audience just go, yeah, sure, that makes sense. In the days of elevated horror or extreme violence, and in a genre that sometimes can take itself a little too seriously with some recent films, it is great to see a talented director go back to the roots of B-movie horror shenanigans, and that James Wan made sure to make the bad oh so entertaining.